It's time to paint the dream. We are on step 3 of IPTO. That is dreams. Remember, IPTO is identity, problems, dreams, obstacles. We've covered identity. We know who they are. We know what their problems are. Now we want to know their dreams. And I'm using the word dreams to represent what do they really want. I mean, you could call it desires, you could call it hopes, wishes, wants, whatever. I just sum it up under the word dreams because it gives me my nice funny little acronym, okay? So it's not just enough to know what people are suffering from. I mean, often it's enough to get their attention, and you can get a long way with just knowing what their problem is. But you also really don't want to know what they want. You want to show them how you can take them with your product that you're selling from the valleys of despair to the promised land. And you can't do that unless you know what the promised land is. So for this third point, you want to know their dreams, what they desire, crave, lust for, hope for, long for, wish for. And again, yes, we're using strong language. We're not selling on preferences here. We're selling on what they must have. Now, it's important to point out that dreams aren't just always the opposite of the problem. Sometimes it is that simple, right? But often it's not. For example, consider someone who might buy how to start an online business course, okay? Their problems might be that they hate their job, their boss sucks, they don't get enough respect, and so on. And certainly their dreams will probably include the opposite of all that stuff, right? Work that they love, no crappy boss, respect from their customers and co-workers. But with dreams, you're going to go further than that. You're not just going to say the opposite of the problem, you're also going to dig into what they want life to be like once they've quit that terrible job and they have their dream business. What will they do? What time would they wake up? Would they go grab coffee with a friend? Work out in the middle of the day? How often would they travel? Where? Would their father finally respect them after years of scorn for working in a job while their dad was a successful entrepreneur? How much more money would they be making? What would they spend it on? And obviously, all that stuff is much richer and deeper than just no bad job, no terrible boss, and more respect, right? The opposite of the problem. And that's going to show in your copy. So don't freak out. You don't always need to go that deep, and later on I'm going to show you exactly how far to go with all this. But that's just an idea on how is dreams different from the opposite of the problem. Well, sometimes it's got a bit more nuance to it. So what questions do we ask to uncover the dreams? What do they want most for themselves? What would their ideal day look like if their problem was solved? And this is a great one, actually. I use this question in surveys a lot. I ask people to describe their ideal day, and I get some really good stuff. So it's a really neat way of thinking of it. If you get to the higher levels of my research framework where you're actually surveying people or talking to people, it's a good thing to ask them. What would they do if they had $100,000 to spend to solve the problem? That can sort of give you an idea, like if it takes out money and obstacles out of the equation, and it kind of lets you know what they'd actually end up doing. So that can be another interesting spin on that question. Where do they want to be 1, 5, 10 years from now? That's another interesting thing to get people to ask people about and get them to think about. What do they secretly lust after? Who do they want to impress? That's often a fairly unspoken motivation and something you need to be on the lookout for in your research. Are people doing something to impress somebody? How would they feel if the problem was taken away? Now, this actually can kind of uncover some of the emotional motivations behind what they really want. If they could wave a magic wand, what would they wish for themselves? I have used this question in surveys too, but it's dangerous, okay, because people don't always know exactly what they want. If you give them too much freedom in a question like this, they can get a little paralyzed, so you've got to be careful. If they woke up tomorrow to find the problem had vanished overnight, what's the first thing they'd do? That is an interesting thing that you can ask people, and it can make for some great scenes in copy if you are talking about, for example, a supplement that alleviates joint pain or something, and you have people, if there's like, oh, I'd go and run outside and then pick up my grandkids or something, it would be a good thing to put in your copy. And again, you can just make your own questions if those aren't enough. These are just examples of questions you can ask. I'm just trying to give you an idea of different angles from which you could sort of define and attack this idea of dreams. And I'll say it again, the goal is to understand what they want. So the questions that you use to achieve that will vary case by case. And I'm not saying go out and ask people all these questions. We're going to get to how you do this. This is just what you need to know. All right, that wraps up the third part of our IPTO model, the dreams. But before we move on to the fourth one, I just want to take a quick moment in the next video to talk about these last two, problems and dreams, and sort of dig into the nuance of which of them is more powerful and which one you should be relying on. And there is a definite answer, so check that out in the next video.